I've always wanted to go back to northern Iraq.
Had you been?
I've never been back. I've been to the border. I've been to the border of like Turkey and Iraq. I've never been.
So is your family from Syria or Turkey?
No, Iraq.
Oh, your family's from Iraq?
Yeah, I'm Assyrian. It's different than Syrian.
So how does what's the difference when
Syrians are Muslims that have been around. Syria's only been around for like the country. Syria's only been around for like 50, 60 years.
yeah, after the First World War, right?
No, second.
You guys aren't Muslims though, right?
No, we're Christian.
Yeah.
We're actually the first Christian nation.
You're like Babylonian Christian.
Yeah. Well, we were pre-Babylonian.
Yeah.
But
You became Christian after the Babylonian Empire, right?
yeah.
Constantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, we were before Constantine. He was the emperor of Rome, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were before Constantine.
So you guys were Christian before
We were
that?
around when Jesus was around.
You guys were Christian during that time?
We were way pre-Jesus, but we were. Our king actually sent a letter to Jesus saying, "Hey, I hear you're having a hard time over there in Jerusalem. Why don't you come out and hang out in
Are
my?"
you serious?
Yeah, Assyrians would say, "Hey, why don't you come out and hang out in my empire? You know, we'll treat you like a king. We'll all follow you. You know." And Jesus was like, "I appreciate the offer, but I got my own thing. I'll send a couple of apostles over there."
Well, to him, he was only here for the Jews. He was actually really affected by his different disciples, and one of his disciples was a nationalist zealot. And after he joined with Christ really became very Jewish-centered, Whereas before he had no problem helping multiple different races. After he joined up with Judas, who actually betrayed him in the end, right? Judas basically taught him the philosophy of the zealots, and he was not that he was uninterested in other people, just that he felt like he only had time for Jews, to really pass his philosophy.
Yeah.
But Christ is just like Tupac. They both failed in the same way. They had the possibility of overthrowing an evil empire, and they instead gave in to fear and indecision.
They gave in to fear.
Yeah. There was a point in Tupac's life where every black male between the ages of 16 and 30 would have done whatever he said. And people were calling for revolution like all over the country. And he wasn't anti-white, right? He'd gone to school with a lot of white people, but he was anti-oppression. So he came to the point where he had to make a decision whether to say yay or nay, and he was too afraid. He told his friends he didn't know what would happen. He was unwilling to give up that control of his life, to become an ideal.
Well, it takes a lot of strength too to sort of be conscious of that fact and
Totally.
not actually.
I always thought Tupac's music.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And his music, in fact, has changed our culture. But he's just become a part of the commercial thing that he opposed, right?
Yeah.
Well, Christ had the same option. He had thousands and thousands of people following him around. It's kind of like what Falun Gong is to China in the Roman Empire in the Jewish time. He could have said, "Okay, we're tired of this. We need our own nation. Let's fuck shit up." And thousands of people. And he had the power to back up anything he said. They followed him because of his oratory power, like Hitler, but also because of what he could do, miracles. He was actually a Taoist, studied different meditations,
They say he went
just
over
like
to India.
Montauk Chia can heal with his power. The same thing Christ learned. See that?
Yeah, I saw Montauk Chia speak. He came to the yoga center.
He's amazing. He's a modern Taoist master. He's learned from so many different people. The art.
Yeah, exactly.
I've read a few of them.
The Inner Smile.
Yeah, I've read The Inner Smile. I've read Cultivating Male Sexuality. All about semen retention. I've been using that for like 7 years, right? So I'm trying to reach a master level, but through books you can never really do that. But he's changing the world, man. He's got basically like his own religion now. He's got centers all over the world where he's teaching people how to heal through different energy workings in the body, how to meditation, also simplified forms of Tai Chi. he took all these different forms of Tai Chi and broke them down into basically like 13, 15 moves. No, I think it's like 11 moves. But it's so simple, so easy to learn. But if you do that form over and over again for years, you start to understand the energy flows in the body. But he has, that's basically what Christ is doing. He can feel someone's energy fields and tell them know what's wrong with it, and then fix it with his own energy. Christ is doing the same thing. Some say to a much bigger extent. But, basically Christ had the option of going and overthrowing oppressive power and freeing his people and creating a very powerful nation of their own. But he chose not to, for whatever reason. But then in the end, he was crucified and sacrificed, just like Tupac.
The thing I always thought was like a total struggle between good and evil, and also like mundane and
the cerebral and the everyday.
It's like the opposite of mundane, really high
Celestial.
high consciousness. You can write songs like Change, hold your head up, Dear Mama,
And then it'll swap. Well, these are the two sides of his life, man. He went to a school where he learned poetry, he learned writing, he learned about communication, he read like all the great authors. He was an art student, but he was a total nerd, right? Then he starts hanging out with these gangbangers, and they start rapping, and he's like, I can do this. He starts flowing these rhymes that are like so educated, right? And people just didn't know what to do with it. I mean, he was amazed. He totally rewrote the book. So he's kind of like, but then he started getting into doing all kinds of drugs, like smoking sherm, which is like weed dipped in embalming fluid. So he starts going crazy. Embalming. Yeah. It's like really bad. But it's really bad. Yeah, but it's a big thing in the ghettos and that time, right? Cheap high. So I mean, just like anything, the more toxic you become, the more toxic what you create becomes. The purer you are, the purer what you create. But they say, the river that is so pure will never have anything that grows in it. But the river that is too dirty will never have anything that lives in it. So it's kind of, you got to find a balance. If it's too pure, nothing will live in it. And if it's too dirty, nothing will live in it. It's got to be a balance. So, but he had all this power, and people don't realize it. And really, it kind of opened my mind when I did more study about it, and I saw the documentary that was written about his life. You can be amazed. If you lived at that time, you know what was happening. If you lived in that community, you know what was happening, right? But people, 10 years later, 15 years later, don't realize the power that an individual holds. It's like Muhammad Ali. Oh yeah, he's a great boxer. But man, at that time, in his time, he was the most famous person in the world. We don't have a conception of that. We don't have anybody at that level in our community. There's too many famous people. There's too many things going on.
Well, it was below the radar too of sort of the silent majority. It was. I think that there were various levels of understanding of what he was trying to.
Are you talking about Muhammad Ali or?
No, I was talking about Tupac. Yeah. And in his world, he was really one.
He was king.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just like, man, you go to Hollywood and you see the movie stars, right? And you're driving down the street and there's a traffic jam, and they're 6 feet away, but they're in a totally different world. Bright lights, flashing cameras, they get out of limos, they're smiling, they can't even see 2 feet in front of them, right? But there we are, 6 feet away in a traffic jam, breathing exhaust fumes. And it's like the world is so close, and it can so easily, the lines can be shattered, One word from that man during that time, and the whole black nation would have stood up. All the males would have stood up and done what they could. And there were, that was just the beginning.
he was really
relatively, it was the beginning of the oppression of the black nation from the 60s to the 80s. That's relatively the beginning, and everybody's pissed off. Everybody's going to prison. They're getting tougher and tougher and meaner and more angry. They're ready to throw.
Well, that's an interesting thing because you're 17, 18. You're 18, 19? How old are you now?
18.
You're 18. So when Tupac was at his pinnacle, how old? That was like in the
90s, right? Early 90s.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So you were just out of diapers.
I was alive, but
Yeah, you weren't conscious of what was going on.
But can you imagine?
How did you tune into?
I tuned into Tupac 5 years ago actually. Some of my friends were getting into it. Most of my friends, they listen to punk, goth, metal, one of my friends is really into rap and would always try to play me. He's like, listen to this dude, he's a fucking poet. You know?
Right.
He's not just talking about dating girls and going out. He's like talking about some serious things about our culture.
Right.
And he's like, this is really amazing stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't really into it. I listened to oldies music and like classic rock. That was my thing, and I could understand what he was saying, but I didn't see the importance of it at the time.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I remember when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart.
That was a
Yellow
groundbreaking
Submarine.
album.
I remember when these albums came out when I was a kid in the late '60s.
And when John Lennon was doing his cultural
Oh
revolution.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so.
For me, I never listened to any rock.
I was anti-rap.
Anti-rap.
The only time I listened to rap was when I was in my friend's car.
Yeah, that was the only. That was the same thing with me. And my friend played Tupac while he was driving me to work. And I was just like, wow, this is actually a guy with a heart and a brain. I just immediately just got all of it.
It's fascinating to me is like when he decided not to go the road of revolution is when his life took this downward spiral. Because I don't know if it was his own guilt, the self-destruction. It's like he went from one path to the other. The one path led to hanging out with all these people that were basically
Knight and all these
people who gave him his downfall. It's like, okay,
but they were also his PR arm. He sort of fell into that life to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I think he admitted the fact that it got to him, that he allowed it to.
he took the easy road.
Yeah.
And he destroyed himself. It's like if he would have took the hard road. It's just like Christ. When he decided not to go to revolution, he was crucified.
Right.
It's like you see the.
Well, what do you think would have happened if he actually taken a hard road and sort of tried to crystallize?
That's what I was thinking. It's like imagine.
Well, how would he be remembered? He would probably be vilified, don't you think?
By white people, by black people.
But black people are only 12%.
Yeah.
And they write the
But look at Che Guevara. Che Guevara is a hero, and what he did was support the person that was oppressed, and they overthrew the bourgeoisie, or what is the word? The controllers. They overthrew the rich, and he died in the line of battle, right? But even though he gave Cuba to an oppressive personality, he's still a hero. You know what I'm saying? And eventually all those things even out. But
Did you
it's
ever
just
see
like
the Motorcycle Diaries?
Yeah. Brilliant film. But it's just like if you want to remodel this room, you gotta cause some dust. You gotta tear things up.
Yeah. It's just the hard thing is that at this point in time, just sort of stepping back, I don't know if the world could actually afford. Maybe it can, but I don't know if the world can afford that kind of dislocation.
Well, see,
to allow natural selection to hit that hard.
The world can afford whatever we do. Humans are amazingly resilient. It's like during World War II, people were like, wow, we'll never recover from this. This is the war to end all wars. And now, 10 years, 15 years later, there's another war. The world continues to evolve despite all these things. I think we're coming to a point where we're realizing war just doesn't work anymore.
So what's that?
Big wars don't work anymore.
Right.
The future of war is small unit actions, special forces actions. That's the future of war. Because you go in and make surgical cuts. It's just like operations.
But when you actually are talking about huge dislocations like that,
man, what I'm saying is the possibility existed, and our world would be completely different. I was just imagining Phil being 5 years old, me being 10 years old, and like our whole world being turned upside down. Like suddenly, out of nowhere, all these gangbangers with guns are coming out of the woodwork. Imagine how that would affect our culture, our world, our personalities. We would be split. Like I was in the East Coast, right, where everybody has guns. We would have been split in basically a civil war. I can just see all the people I know fighting against all these black people. And really, the truth is that it's not about white or black. It's about classism. That's really the problem. And it's funny how I think these things,
socioeconomics of the situation.
these patterns of things happen until the pattern is right and fits into place. It's like you're putting together a puzzle. You're trying to put together all these pieces. You're trying to put together all these things, and you keep moving pieces around. They don't fit. They seem to fit. They don't fit, right? Until you get the puzzle put together. And I think our world is in a constant state of revolution. It's just like the infinity sign, a constant state of all these pieces in our subconscious, our culture, individual realities being put into place where we can find that puzzle, we can find that picture. Because all those pieces have been put together for our world to come to a state of involvement, which we slowly are. The pieces are being put together.
We're leaving at 7:30. Yes, 7:30. And we need to wake up at 6:30 and breakfast at 7. And we only had 20 minutes.
10.
That's right. So,
Very good.
So we're leaving the key cards with you. I've been collecting on the bus because key cards has a deposit from the desk. If you lose it, you pay the money, some money.
We've already experienced that.
50 yen, in fact.
Experience of that.
Okay,
You're on.
Keys to the
I think you realize that, empires wax and wane, and you start forces, and then this guy takes over this guy. And so he was just a total act of just look, this killing thing is not going to do it.
The problem is, man, is we got to deal with the system that's already in place. It's like when I come with my fucking electric plug and I say your wall should fit my electric plug. It doesn't. You need an adapter. You need a time of destruction to build the ideal. And see, Christ was just used now by the same oppressive people to control the masses. Tupac is just used by the people that took advantage of him to take advantage of more people.
It's just like animals.
And the message
But he
is
did
lost.
well, I don't know about that. His message was broadcast on a bigger microphone to a certain extent.
Right.
It was a symbiotic situation.
All the pieces come into place, right, where the message becomes pure and pure and pure. Like Christ's message is so watered down by this time, right? Tupac's message is in the subconscious of so many people. Plus, his message is now in the actual film that he recorded being released. You see what I'm saying? So all these truths become more self-evident. The truths become more concrete and less dilutable as we go along in our involvement as human species. But they chose the same path, and their product is being used the same way. It's like, I think someone along the lines who's in that position needs to choose what seemingly is the evil way to create the most good, you know?
Well,
Seemingly is the bad way, but at the end can have the best payoff. It's like life's a gamble, you know?
yeah. I mean, I think that there's a fine line in terms of that kind of dislocation, just in the sense of, what happened post 9/11.
Yeah.
I think that.
What do you mean? What?
Well, I think that should there be another, in other words, if movie theaters start blowing up, if people are in pizzerias and malls start blowing up, that it actually will cause almost like a military,
It'll cause a crackdown.
well, yeah, I mean, it will
Force the revolutionaries into guerrilla war.
Well, it's going to be very difficult to do that at this point. I mean,
See, I don't think it's difficult. I don't think
martial law is what I was talking about.
Yeah, totally.
Lockdown.
I'm not a proponent of saying, well, we should have had a black revolution.
Right.
I think, yeah, we should have. I think if they had followed what they need to do for themselves, we would have had one. But instead, downward spiral happened, right? The wrong path was chosen. I'm not saying that I would have enjoyed it, but I'm saying for them, I think that was the best ideal. Because once you stand up, it's just like in a dog pack. Once you stand up and you say, no, you will not bite me.
Well,
no, you will not take my food. Now suddenly you've got a bigger portion.
But you know what? I think there are different ways to do that. In the sense, for instance, I feel that an actual physical confrontation could diminish their cause to a certain extent. And I think that there are better ways to fight.
Bring out more racism.
Well, there's that. But also, I think that when you look at South Africa, just as an example, they were in an oppressive situation for you name it, however long, on all levels, and there was actual physical confrontation. people getting locked up in Robben Island where there was no color. I mean, people were in there for 10 years and they hadn't seen a red or a blue or a green. You know, everything was gray. I mean, just the intensity of the oppression. But what finally toppled that regime was the people got together and they said, you know what? Fuck you guys. I am not going to spend one dime in your store. 3 months after that, all of the purveyors, the businessmen went to the powers that be and said, "You fuckers better get this shit together because I'm losing bank here." That was actually how they successfully, non-violently, overthrew the system. Right. They voted with their pocketbooks.
But it goes back to the same thing as I was saying with the plug. It's like, that's the ideal. I can just plug everything right into the wall, right?
Right.
But in modern black culture, the culture has become so oppressed and violent that the only way you could actually get anybody in their culture to take part in a revolution is through violence.
But they're almost more violent on their own people as opposed to.
Completely.
I think that I mean, when you look at the prison industrial complex, where you have 70% of the people in there because of drugs and drug-related crimes, and like I took Dallas to Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and it was like,
yeah, I saw the pictures.
it's all legal.
And
I mean, it's like they aren't propelled to or they aren't compelled to do a B&Es to get their fix and so on and so forth. And there are so many people who are profiting from the complex, i.e. building it, maintaining it, feeding it, that they'll never, and also you think of the $1.2 trillion of illicit funds that need to be laundered every year, $600 billion that goes through Wall Street. If you do a transaction of 10,000 or more, you need to report that to the Fed. But guess what? Wall Street does not have to do that. And there are reasons for that.
Interesting.
And
well, the government definitely takes advantage. I mean, they're the ones that instituted drugs in that culture to fund a lot of black operations during that time, right? They're still doing that. But I mean, the point is that.
I think they need to win at the game. In other words, they need to not spend money at Walmart. They need to support black business. They need to. Don't you think?
I fear that they won't.
Why?
Because our culture has brainwashed them to think they need the next best thing, the shiniest thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying about Tupac being taken advantage of by the actual system that he sought to free himself of. He sought to use as a means of expression. Right? Because now these same people are like, oh, well, I've got to have a Tupac CD, and I've got to have a Biggie CD, and I need that flashy gold chain. Their whole culture now has everything to do with what people think about them, how they appear to others. They'll never not buy those things.
Well, I mean, I think
they do in a small group of people do.
Right.
But the large population doesn't.
Right, but I think that if someone like Tupac could be enlightened in terms of some of the things that we've been talking about, as far as it really boils down to economics in a sense and getting a stranglehold on the situation. And that starts from between your ears. That's the gray matter. They need to be enlightened. I mean, like somebody who can go to the churches, somebody who can go, grassroots and let them know, where the short hairs are. And that's how to yank on it. And really, it starts at home. It's discipline.
I think that's great.
Whereas
that's the best thing. But what I'm saying is, you can't always have the best thing,
Right.
Sometimes you got.
But I mean, look what Mahatma did. Look what Mahatma did. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look what Mahatma did. Look what Martin Luther King Jr. did.
Right.
I mean,
and they killed them. They killed both of them.
Men?
They're both dead, but they live on. Their thoughts live on, and that's what's key, though.
To me, that's just like. There's Martin Luther King Drive in every city, right? But instead of your thoughts living on, what if the future is now? What if the paradise is now? Why wait when you can take what you need from the system that oppresses you?
Well, who's that? Oh.
You kill like millions of people. I mean, absolutely ruthless person.
As most great figures in history.
Well, but then, like, remember what you said about the river? It's too clean.
Yeah.
It's like an expression of like somebody like a general.
Very strong personalities, take what they want, but yet believe that. I think they basically believe that everyone should be that strong, but most people aren't.
I think,
You know what I'm saying?
I think what gave them that strength was that brunch. Like you look like both Uwe and one they were called like the man of virtue of his time. They were fierce warriors. But at the same time, they had such a strong belief virtue, morality.
Well, see, that's the thing is that I think that there is definitely a time for violent resistance in certain situations, but you have to have your priorities in order, and have to be disciplined and determined, and be fully consistent with a game plan, as opposed to just random acts of violence to an end.
Terrorism. There's three people I hate the most in the world: racists, terrorists, and drug dealers.
Right.
And unfortunately, our government is all three in many ways.
Yeah.
I love America. I love American people. But a lot of the things that have been allowed to happen in our communities and what we've instituted around the world, pure barbarian. They're barbarian. I mean, they're just savage.
Well, it's not sustainable. I mean, you look at the media and what we're projecting out. I mean, that was one of the things that was very poignant. We were stuck in that traffic jam and just like looking at a truck filled with televisions, and it's just like a virus. You know what I mean? I mean, there is a lot of good that comes there, but realistically, what that is doing is exporting a non-sustainable way of life, i.e. our American way of life is not sustainable in its present form. What?
Even this monk at the top of this mountain, the one that
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think TV is a great tool of education and communication.
But is it used that way? No, it's not.
Just like a gun. I mean, it's only bad when you shoot somebody who doesn't deserve it, right?
Well,
A television is only bad when you're projecting images that are purely based on lust and selfish desires.
Yeah.
Right?
well, I mean, the thing is that a gun is what it is, but realistically, when you think about society, period, even our quote-unquote benevolent, our shining American way of life, it's really based on violence. But violence and greed.
Violence and greed.
That's correct, but I'll tell you what the root of it is. A lot of it is money, and when you actually, it's like if you're involved in a court situation, there are fines, there are settlements, judgments. It's all, and if you don't have enough money to pay your bills, or this and that, you can wind up in situations that are detrimental to your well-being. Yeah.
They have cops come in on like all the entrances, and they just just like holding you there and like checking your ticket. 50-cent ticket.
They're walking around with M16s.
No.
Have you seen them come through the bar with M16s? No. Well, it's Armalite AR-15s, but it's basically like an M16. They come strolling through
Where
the
was
bar
this?
with fully automatic weapons. This is in
Oh
San
yeah.
Francisco. Strolling through the bar with fully automatic weapons.
Yeah.
I've seen it multiple times. It's the same thing. It's like the whole structure for the military system, the military state, is already in place.
Well, yeah.
And it's slowly,
it's on your cell phone, which has you have you're projecting your signature. You can be triangulated. Your every call that you make, every transaction you make, it's so cheap now, and I mean it's like all the corporations are locking in the patterns. Yeah.
It's slowly escalating. Well, it's just like the Mark 666. I mean, pretty soon we're all going to need chips to communicate.
Well,
to
yeah.
buy,
Well, it's
sell.
RFID, and it's your.
They were all located in the Astrodome. Oh God! Military air. That just.
They did what?
They were they relocated all through the Astrodome.
Yeah.
There was military in the Astrodome recruiting people, saying, "Look, you've lost everything. Come join the
I mean,
military."
that's purely practical.
Yeah.
That's purely practical.
Did you ever see Fahrenheit, or not Fahrenheit, the Moore film? Fahrenheit 9/11.
9/11.
Yeah, Fahrenheit 9/11. About how they just sort of
They focus on minorities
Yeah.
because they have no other path, no other possibility for education, and I mean. They're uneducated already, so you can tell them whatever you want. They can't fight you. I mean, it's not
Once
like
they
it's
sign
a
the
rich
contract,
man's son
yeah.
who can get out of basically anything if you lie to them.
Yeah.
They have no other option. So, I mean, that's purely practical from a military standpoint. It's like if we're in the middle of a revolution, you go to a place where the oppressive forces have just destroyed everything, and you go, hey, man, you want to join the cause? You know, we're fighting the same people. You say, you have nothing. We can offer you whatever you need. I mean, that's not evil. I mean, it's just practical. I mean, if you want to destroy an enemy, first you learn his ways and perfect them.
Well, see, that's the thing. Just coming through on this trip and actually firsthand seeing what's happening and watching the transformation of the culture. I mean,
What have you noticed about it?
just that they are going for it. They are going for it. All these people that are in the little shops where they hand fix everything. You see all those little places where they're just cobbling it together like they have for years. And then you start to see, Toyota 4Runners on trucks, appliances. All these things require power. They're not efficiently put together. It's
Burning
like
coal.
That's right. They're burning coal to
Destroying the
sustain it, whereas we use a lot of natural gas and so on and so forth.
We have one of the largest coal burning. We burn almost the most coal in the world as well.
Right, but
quite as
China
much as they
has some of the world's largest reserves, and they're going after it. Actually, Xtian is one of the province that we're in now, or Shanxi, is one of the largest coal deposits of anthracite and bituminous coal, and they're just pulling it out as fast as they can.
It's all the strip mine.
Yeah. And so,
Montauk Cheese talks a lot about
I've been feeling my consciousness changing over the last 4 days. I mean, all of it is just the clash of psychology with what's going on, all the experience we're having, also the everything.
but you do see, I mean, they sort of have passively designed solar homes where they're mostly facing south with the big windows and so forth, but you don't see the solar hot water, you don't see the PV, obviously because they can't afford it, but it's going to be
Well,
interesting.
it's amazing. Like we could use the power structure that we now currently have in America to really influence the world so positively.
Yeah.
I mean, what really is
Well,
needed-
Europe is jumping ahead of us by
they're-
leaps and bounds. They're already
they've totally beat us already. I mean, they're at the end of the race,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we still have a greater power structure of influence than Europe will ever have in the next 100 years.
You think so?
Oh yeah, totally. We have all the movie stars. We control the image of what's cool in the world, right? And that's really what everybody wants. I mean, why do you think they drink Coca-Cola? It's not because it tastes good. It's because it's American, right? So if we had a great leader in our country that could really begin to change things in our own world, in our own reality, the whole world would follow suit.
Right.
I mean, it's like if Sifu institutes something in his life, everyone that's around him is going to imitate that, regardless of what it is. I mean, I've started dating blonde girls since he started dating blonde girls. It's not because I consciously went after that.
Right.
It's just like seemed to be what happened. Like,
Yeah.
what came along.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really. I mean,
Yeah,
to me,
that's
it's really
true.
fascinating.
Yeah.
But where the head
Well,
goes,
essentially you're
where the head
conscious
goes,
that
the
way.
body leads. you know?
Right.
And America right now is the head of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we're consciously or unconsciously controlling everything. Now, our corporations consciously do it because
That's
they want to
correct.
make money.
Well, yeah,
Right?
definitely.
But that structure is already in place. It's like all we need to do is
Tweak it.
redirect. Exactly. And it won't take major things. It's like you can sell sex, no problem. You can sell cool, no problem. You can sell fast.
Well, that's
no
also the
problem.
promise of the internet too. To a certain extent, it's very it's balancing in terms of getting messages out there for sure.
But now it's becoming just a massive advertisement.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you turn on the computer, you start looking at things on the internet, searching for information.
Right.
It's just
It's almost
so
too
bogged
much.
down with
It's a
crap.
glut. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I mean, you can't even cope with, you put in,
keyword search on something.
keyword search, and you come up with 100,000 hits.
Right.
How
do you
even
filter
process
that?
that information?
Yeah.
I mean, you really, like any corporation that has researchers, 100 people are doing that.
Yeah.
You know, let's say I'll take 1 through 10, you take 11
Yeah.
through 20.
Right.
You know,
Start
we'll
to
sit down there
filter
for
it out.
a week and process all the information.
Right. No, for sure. Well, that's the whole thing with artificial intelligence and how that's coming through. Did I tell you about?
You told me about the book you're reading.
I'm almost done with it, and you need to read it. The singularity is
I've
near.
got one to trade with you.
Oh, really? Okay. What's that?
Holographic universe.
Holographic universe.
It's all
Interesting.
about how basically everything in this room is us. It's not just made of the same stuff, but according to quantum physics, we've proved that it is us.
Right.
Everything around us is us.
Well, it's patterns, right?
Well, no, I mean it's literally us. I mean, we're all connected. There's actually no separation between Phil and I. There's no separation between me and this chair. Literally, in our world,
Well,
we are all part of one being.
yeah. Well, I think that we're the same. I mean, it's subatomically, we're the same, but
Wait till you read this book.
Yeah.
Because in quantum physics, they prove that we are everything. And this goes back thousands of years of magical conception, and all
Yeah.
people who study the occult, they say when you create something, you're creating a spirit into reality. And that's why, I mean, artists have been so honored in many cultures, is because they're not just making a painting, they're creating our reality. They're rearranging our reality. They're changing our reality.
Right.
And you start reading this book, and it's just amazing because they take instances and examples from like Hindu culture, Egyptian culture, science, chemistry, like, and just fit
And
all
tie
these
it
different things together. But really, kind of leave the choices up to you about what you believe about it. But it's really fascinating because I'm more interested in the scientific parts of it.
well, yeah.
and how
As
they-
the
how
deeper
they
that they look, it's like getting scarier and scarier in the sense
Well,
that
it's
they
also, we also see that we know exactly what they knew 2,000 years ago.
right. Or the further out they look, it's also getting scarier too.
Further out we're looking, the farther in we're looking.
Right, or back in time. Yeah. But no, so this book is really fascinating. I mean, some of the things that we are going to see in our lifetime is going to be quite amazing. It really is going to be.
That's why I'm trying to take as best care of myself as possible. because
That's
I
what
wanna
I'm
see
doing.
As much of it as possible.
I'm actually.
Joe, you were supposed to eat with us tonight, man. We talked about that earlier. Every one of us said that you need to start eating with us.
Hey, Joe,
You're part of the group until the end of the trip.